Tiana, you've disappeared on me for 2 years, but now you're back.
Hi, David. How are you?
I'm great. It's been a busy couple of years. We've both been on different little sections there, but you've been very quiet the last, let's say, 6 months. Am I right? I haven't seen anything what you've been doing.
It's actually been I think about no, almost a year that I haven't been doing any YouTube videos or anything.
Why
Not just,
not? What
I
happened?
think
Did
it
you
was
get burned out?
I think it was just a very necessary time to just take a step back. I didn't know what was going on. And I think everyone needed that time to just recalibrate because we'd been talking about things forever and we just wanted to see some action for a while and nothing was happening on the actual world stage. And I thought, okay, well, I think we've exhausted every topic that you can almost talk about. And so I thought, okay, I'll feel it in my heart when it's necessary for me to come back. And I
Yeah.
just wanted my first conversation to be with you because
Oh,
I
you
have
flirt. The flattering flirt.
no, because I really wanted to catch up with you after it has been a year. And I've been a bit very much out of the geopolitical arena during this hiatus, but I've had a lot of questions as usual.
Hmm.
And I've been gathering just a wealth of information and speculation about Trump. But also, as per usual, I have way more questions than I have answers. But what can we do? I think it's quite plausible to have more questions than to have answers because we can't verify all the information we have, at
No,
least us.
I tell you what, I've just had a real big deja vu feeling now when you exactly that sentence says, hold on. And that
Yeah.
we haven't done one of these before, and you had a different background, and your hair's
Mm.
normally more crazy than it is. Have you had your hair cut? It looks a little bit more.
It's actually so long, like you can't tell, but it's
I
really
remember you have this incredible head of hair on you.
very.
Well, I don't think it's been particularly quiet. You see, one of my specialities is I see a lot of different puzzle pieces, and they all kind of slot into place. So we all got disheartened when Trump wasn't given the election and he was obviously stolen from it. But now what I've come to accept and understand, it goes back to the same old sentence. It had to be that way, and
Mhm.
this verifies it with me because it shows you how bad things have got. We would never have believed like everything is so corrupt, right from political arenas. Now what's happening in Israel, 95% of the US Senate are all controlled by the Israeli payment system. I
Yep.
mean, if you'd have told anybody that, Trump's in court all the time on made up charges. This latest one, she's been recorded saying rape is a sexual fantasy, and she said that. It's just they're out to get him. And then if you deep dive even further and start looking at the geographical that ties in with the astrology. I was talking to George Lewis. He flew out here last weekend, and we had a series of interviews. I mean, the astrology right now is just showing that the next few months is going to be such a traumatic turmoil. Mars and Pluto are all coming into it. Mars is
Mhm.
the god of war. There's going to be a lot of incidents, and it's not going to be necessarily peaceful from now until June. Mark Atwood's talking about the same thing. He's very much saying, prepare your soul for a battle. But I
There's
mean,
apparently going to be so many food shortages as well everywhere. Like it's just going to get more and more chaotic, basically.
this is what they're trying to do, Tiana. If you think about that, they're not going to relinquish the control that they've had for hundreds of years, possibly
Mhm.
thousands, debatable thousands of years. But there's so much upheaval and turmoil, and people saying, hold on a second, I'm not having this anymore. You're dictating too much. You're trying to tell me I can't fly to see any of my family members. I've got to stay in the city. You want me to have an electric car. You're telling me that climate control is out of control when it isn't. We know that the science doesn't back any of that up. So people are realizing that they're being told what to do by a load of one-sided dictatorial bullshitters who are only just trying to fill up their own pockets and
Mm.
keep you dumb and stupid. But that's my 10 cents. That's where I've learned. I've been extremely active. I'm still doing five,
I
six
know. I've been
shows a
watching you
week.
quite a bit.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
it's amazing that you've been so consistent. I can't believe you haven't had a burnout.
No, you know what? I just get stronger and stronger, and I see things clearer and clearer. There is a lot of divine guidance that is going on here. I mean, the things that have been happening to me, it's been hilarious. The people that
Really?
the government's tried to stop me, that hasn't worked. It's just made me even more determined. I've come up with legal ways around everything that I'm doing. I'm actually loving it, Tiana. loving it.
That's amazing. And so you're not on YouTube anymore, are you? You're
No, I mean,
only on.
only YouTube is a bit like hospitals. Only idiots go to hospitals and in YouTube because they're
I've had
just bad at
two
everything.
of my I've had two of my YouTube channels get taken down, but I just can't seem to get familiar with Rumble and BitChute. I just hate the user interface so much, but I think it's time to stop making excuses and really just.
BitChute is good because that's all I launched on, and I've never had any strikes or anything. We can talk about absolutely everything. I don't like
Yeah.
Rumble because it just takes too long to load everything, and there's always a lot of adverts. But BitChute works well for me. But I know your studious brain. I've seen you in action, and you actually absolutely connect to the divine when you get into some of your
Oh,
intel. So
that is so.
there's a few women out there that have that talent, and you're certainly in the top five. So I'm happy to talk to you. I'm excited to hear what you've been doing and digging and putting together. So let's hand the mic back to you. Off you go.
Thank you. Well, I just really wanted to talk about Trump mainly today. And, anyone who's been with me long enough, David, will know that as much as I have commended everything Trump has done for America, I've equally had my reservations about his true intentions ever since he gave Jerusalem to Israel, and mainly since the establishment of the Abraham Accord. It's just always been very strange to me that, he appointed Jared Kushner, his Zionist son-in-law, to be his senior advisor. So today, I really just wanted to do a deep dive, particularly into Trump. And like I told you before we started, I'm really not endorsing any of the information we speak about today. I'm simply putting it out there for
Yeah.
people to discern for themselves and see what you resonate with. Like, I've always said on my Telegram channel, and it's funny that you mentioned that thing about the puzzle piece. Like, I feel the same exact way. I've always said to people, because people get really riled up, when I put forth any information that goes against their preconceived biases. So my point is, like, when I give you a certain piece of the puzzle, I'm not asking you to trust it. I'm just simply asking you to bear it in mind, in case we're given more pieces to finish the puzzle later on. So it is quite possible, contrary to popular belief, that, you can hold two contradictory beliefs in your mind before you have enough knowledge to make a firm decision on your stance.
Yeah, absolutely. Information is power. That's the sword
Yeah.
that we're all wielding at the moment, from what we're putting together. So, I personally believe Trump is trying to do a good job, but the problem is, look, if you imagine, like it's like Greta Thunberg, she goes to all these conferences about the green, but she's flying in a
Right.
private jet. What do you think? She's taking a bicycle and sailing over there? Of course,
No,
she's
no.
not. There is a lot of bigotry about this and two-facedness. You're campaigning for one thing, but you have to do another. So I think Trump's the best option right now, but do I think he's completely no? He hasn't, he's been on this road a long time, not so much on the political side, but his
Yeah.
business contacts are obviously going to have to be something to do with it. And like you say, there were some actions that he did, especially with Israel, that should have question marks over it. And I didn't know his brother-in-law. Did he say his
His
yeah,
son-in-law. It's
son-in-law?
Ivanka Trump's husband,
Yeah.
Jared Kushner. Yeah, he was a senior advisor while he was in office, wasn't he? The whole thing is just so dodgy. Just it's that part especially that makes me question his motives. And I don't know if you've heard about Jim Willey. He's
No.
done a few interviews recently, and he's got basically has a lot of information because of his network of 20 or 30 contacts that work for him and I think with him. But hold on, I just want to pull up this list of people that he
Absolutely.
spoke about. Hold on one second.
I probably know who he is. If once I see his face, I'll recognize him.
Yeah, so basically, he's a financial expert and a very he's very insightful about today's he analyzes everything so meticulously, and he's recently very much been talking about and highlighting Trump and his relationship with Epstein. And a lot of people I know say that his name is not on the flight log of the Lolita Express, which I can vouch for as well. I've seen the flight log. But Jim, I think his main point is that he's seen numerous photos of Trump with Epstein, not just the ones that we've seen on the Netflix documentary, but numerous photos of Epstein with Trump in his Manhattan mansion. And in a very recent interview, Jim was talking about his reservations about Trump not being, exactly who everyone thought he was, and the truth about his past not being fully disclosed. And he
Yeah.
probably just has a lot of skeletons in his closet and that could potentially be revealed if he makes it back into office, because we've all been questioning this thing, like, why is it taking so long? Why are there so many contingencies to him coming back, being reelected? And I do agree with you that he does believe that, I mean, Jim also believes that Trump wants to save America and restore the republic. But he was just explaining how even the cabal is divided into two sides. You know, it's similar to what I'm sure you've heard of Jessie Zebatar. She talks about this. She said that, you know, the cabal have a light side and a dark side. And one side is just a lesser of the two evils. It's like a domestic war between two parties in the same house, basically. And the dark side are obviously more extreme. They're like Jim calls them the globalist Satanists. And then he calls the other side, which I think Trump is a part of, the fraudulent banksters, you could call them. They're not, you know, responsible for too much of the satanic stuff, but they do, you know, account for a lot of the crime that's been going on. And the light side of the cabal are less likely to kill, but in extreme cases, they would consider bloodshed in order to just cover their fraudulent activities, I guess. So, you know, he mentions that because Trump didn't go to Epstein Island, doesn't mean that he didn't regularly spend time with Epstein in New York, in his Florida properties. Like, what were they doing during their time together? And if we do face a situation, I think, David, where Trump is reelected in the future, I don't think he'll be serving for long. I think, you know, what's going to happen is, like, he's going to set everything up and delegate just all the responsibilities to very hardworking patriots in each position, and probably just step aside.
Well,
Because
he's
I think
80. He's nearly 80 coming up. But you see, let me jump in there, because guilt by association isn't necessarily
I agree.
a just point
No, yeah.
to continue down there. I'll give you a good example. I always like to give easy examples for the audience to understand. Where I live in the south of Spain, it's a haven for there's a big drug business there. Unfortunately, the fact is that there wouldn't be a drug business if there wasn't demand for it. So I consider these people very weak. They need to have some sort of escapism from their everyday lives. They need a little bit of this or a little bit of that just to make them feel a little bit better. So when I used to go out, Tiana, I knew them all. I knew all the police, and I knew all the good guys and all the bad guys. And so they'd say, "Hey, Mahoney, come over here. I need a favor for you. I need a mortgage broker. Who's a good guy that, you know, can be a little bit lenient, because I've got several companies. It's not just a straightforward application." I say, "Okay, I can put you in touch with somebody like that." But they never paid me. I would never take it. Say, "You owe me a favor. Someday I might call you for a favor." And then I never used to sit down with them. I'd sit down for a couple of minutes, shake a hand, and then leave, because you'll get tagged. And if he starts calling me, if his phone is tapped, then they'll tap my phone. Not that I care, it's just an inconvenience. You know, during those days, this was only 15 years ago, sometimes I make a call, pick it up, and then I'll be talking to some total stranger from the other side of Spain. Say, "How did you call me?" He says, "Well, who are you?" Because the technology was falling down, and it was clear my phone was tapped. And it's just by associating, having a quick meeting or taking a coffee with somebody, that you can get into this. Now, I'd imagine that a man as powerful, and especially with the contacts that Epstein had, there will be occasions where somebody as powerful as Trump, when he was in his business days, would either he'd need him or vice versa. They'd need Epstein for something. "Hey, Epstein, give me an introduction to this guy. I'm trying to put this project together in Atlantic City," for example. And that's business. It doesn't necessarily tag you. Like, people wouldn't say, "Oh, Mahoney's into all these drug gangs." Not at all. Not at all. So just for the audience, again, let's keep an open mind. And again, I'm not
absolutely. I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
It's not really, I completely agree that you can't be guilty by association.
Business is business. You'll run into crooks, and you'll run into people that say, "Remember that guy? Yeah, he just got 15 years. Jesus, really? Happens all the time, especially in the business world.
I think Jim also very frequently, quite a few times, repeatedly mentioned the fact that Trump owns 3 beauty pageants, and apparently he used them to get access to all these girls. And obviously there's no guarantee, but it's also not, I'm not saying that he did or didn't commit any predatory acts with these girls, but it's interesting to bear
As
that
long
in
as
mind.
they're over 21, I don't think it's, it's when they get younger, because don't forget, women often use the power of their beauty to chump up the scale.
Oh,
as well.
yeah.
And the whole Hollywood thing is as a typical act of that. I've seen it happen in front of my eyes. Even on video shoots, when we're shooting stuff, I've seen, women they would use their beauty to try and advance themselves in the production or the producers' good books. And what was he called? The big producer from LA used that often as his power, you know.
No, I don't doubt it. Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense.
What are you
I
going to
just
share? I can't. I'm looking
um
for your screen shares now.
I'm not sharing anything yet. I'll let you know. I think I'm
Ah,
allowed to, right? Yeah. Okay. So basically, I was just going to tell you about the list of names that we all know that Trump, I mean, Jim basically gives out a long list of people in Trump's administration who betrayed Trump. And we're aware of most
yeah.
of this, obviously. But it's just interesting that all these appointees were deep state figures. And I just want to take the list out for a second.
Mike Pence was always the one that I was surprised at because it was his right hand man, and then when it came down to the January thing, he totally flipped on him. And Mike Pence has also had a lot of shit that had been released on him about his little taste for the forbidden fruit of young boys. I mean, that's
It's
been.
something about Pence's eyes.
I
It
never
doesn't fit
trusted him.
me.
I didn't trust him.
No, me neither. In the beginning, I thought he was quite a family man, and I believed that just the mainstream rhetoric about him.
Yeah.
But then,
I don't think
as
there's anybody. I mean, maybe some of the younger ones, but the older ones have been at it for years because it's a little bit of corruption every day, a little bit more, and all these honeypots they set up, like the Playboy Mansion, absolute honey
yeah,
spot. They were just recording everything that was going on there. It was a Mossad
Mhm.
operation, gathering dirt and blackmail material, and everybody went through there.
Yeah, exactly. I just think I find it just quite dodgy that there's so many people that betrayed Trump, and I just want to tell you some of the names that we are again all aware of, but just there's just so many of them. So there was William Barr, who was the Attorney General, and then
Yeah,
we've got Jed Kushner, who was the senior advisor, Stephen Mnuchin, is that his name? I think he was
yeah,
the Secretary of Treasury, Mike Pompeo, the CIA and Secretary of State. Alan Dershowitz, Defense Legal Team, Wilbur Ross, Secretary of Commerce, Gary Cohn, the National Economic Council. We've got Steve Bannon, who was the White House Senior Counselor, Betsy DeVos, who was Secretary of Education, Rudy Giuliani, who we know was also, I think, Attorney General, and then part of Trump's legal team, and the famous Alex Acosta, who is the Secretary of Labor. And there's way more names, David, but when Epstein was first arrested, for example, he was given a 13-month sentence, house arrest, I think.
who?
Yet,
Sorry,
sorry,
when who was first arrested?
when Epstein was first arrested.
Epstein, right? Yeah, yeah.
So, and it's interesting that this Alex Acosta and Trump's team made sure that his arrest was so relaxed and he was able to, I think, leave the house for 6 days of the week for 12 hours a day to go to work, to have dinner, just to do whatever he wanted. And this was even though he had a 54-page indictment for being a sexual predator. It's just very odd that Alex Acosta was such an important part of Trump's cabinet, and he's the one who allowed, Epstein these privileges. And Jim also mentions that he believes that Epstein is alive and very well and living in a city in Israel called Haifa,
Haifa, yeah.
right? And obviously the deep state he thinks is who faked his death and not the white hats. Because I mean, that's just logic, isn't it? They didn't want to really kill him off because the cabal never kill off their highest level assets. So that's something to think about. And I mean, Steve Mnuchin, who he appointed as Treasury Secretary, he's very deep in the swamp because he's like a second generation Goldman Sachs partner, which is
Mm.
basically double swamp. And I think the biggest betrayer, in my opinion, though, was William Barr.
Yeah,
Don't you
because
think?
yeah,
He
I
was the
agree.
Attorney General. And he's the one who made Trump pardon, for example, the Iran Contra criminals who were involved in all the cocaine transport and all the weaponry for cocaine. But David, the question is like, did Trump appoint these people like deliberately to bring out these deep state figures? Because that's one side of the argument. People think, it was all just a sting operation to trap them, right? Or was he just, or was he just himself? Because Trump publicly also said how he was betrayed by Mike Pence and William Barr and others. Like, I just don't understand what's going on, which side of the argument to
Right.
believe is.
So there's two sides there. Is Trump a little bit naive, believing that these people on their handshake and the words that he is going to back them up? I don't believe that. If he was
Yeah,
that naive, he wouldn't have been so successful in business. He's quite
mm,
ruthless in business. So I believe he knew where these people stood all along. And it's the old analogy, keep your friends close, but your enemies closer.
Yeah.
And he gave them enough rope to exercise their rights to hang themselves, basically, by showing their true nature. I don't believe for a second that he was fooled by any of these people, you know. I think he was restricted because when he got into the White House, imagine this. I mean, if you're a prisoner of war, but you speak the local language and you can disguise yourself as one of them, at some stage you're going to slip up. You know, there's a great scene from one of Tarantino's movie where the guy orders 3 whiskeys and he holds up these 3 fingers. Germans would never do that. They always start with a thumb. And it's true. They go, eins, zwei, drei. Simple things like that can slip you up when you are in deep cover. So if he was convinced that he was in a nest of vipers and he's trying to see who else is there. So I don't believe that he was naive about it. But we also need to address a few things about Epstein, Tiana, because the whole death of Epstein is extremely suspicious. And again, for the audience's sake, let's just talk about that for 30 seconds, because he was locked inside a federal jail. They removed all the prisoners the night of his body, and all the cameras weren't working. And somehow he managed to get him a little bed sheet all set up and hang himself. Then the post-mortem was controlled, and the post-mortem pictures clearly show that the guy's ears are totally different, and even the shape of his nose is different. So there is a large question mark. Is Epstein actually dead? And I don't believe he is either. I think he was too powerful a man. There was too much money all hidden around the place, and all of his secret bank accounts only he would know. So I believe he was smuggled out of that prison. That's why all those prisoners, and nobody knows where his fellow prisoners that were on that block that night are. They've never disclosed, okay, this guy, Tyrone or whatever, or William, whoever was in there. Where are these guys now? They've all just Harry Potter, gone underneath an invisibility cloak. And of course, you just get stonewalled when you ask questions. So that's point number 1. And point number 2 was the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. She was convicted on the testimony of several girls that came into the courtroom. Okay, yes, that woman tricked us and trafficked us. And what did she do? Well, we were taken to places and we were forced to have sex with people that we didn't want to. It was more or less, you got to do this, or we're going to eliminate you. All right, so who's doing the sexual assaulting? Because if you're pointing at people and saying, oh, some random guy, I don't think that's enough for a conviction. Yes, you've got testimony, but if the level of people that were involved in this, the reason that the court names of the sexual assaulters was not released is because obviously it contains some very important and influential and well-known people. So that's a list I would love to see, whose names were brought up in the courtroom that the girls identified as being the predators and the rapists and the sexual assault masters. Where's that list? Why are they trying to keep that quiet?
Do you think we'll ever know? Do you think it'll ever be disclosed?
I think there'll be somebody someday that will come across a way in. There'll be some hacker sitting in his mom's basement in Wisconsin or in Russia somewhere. Let's get in and find this list. I think it's all going to come out. I mean, every single day, there's more and more little bits and pieces coming out.
It's funny though. It's funny though, the way that things play out. By the time things actually are disclosed, a lot of people just don't care anymore.
Well, it's not just that
energetic frequency out there of not being desperate for this information. And so
yeah, because it's about being overexposed to it. It's like Epstein list. Like everyone now, if you were to say, here's the Epstein list, I'll be like, I've looked at it. I don't really need to look at it again. Oh, there's somebody new on it. Well, who was it? Anybody? It's become accepted. It's like, is there corruption in Washington? If you ask anybody that, they're going to say, of course there is. We all know there is. So when you say, oh, this senator, that senator, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, there was an top FBI agent that was convicted for taking money from a Russian oligarch to control the election to try and manipulate Trump's figures. He was tried, evidence was given, he was convicted. But do the public care? It was everywhere. Of course, mainstream media don't talk about it. So a top FBI official who was screaming and pointing at Trump, saying, you colluded with the Russians, it was actually him. Everything he said that Trump did was actually him. He took hundreds of thousands of dollars to manipulate the data for the election and faked it all and try to put it on Trump. But do people really care? Is it going to stop a taxi driver in New York and say, hey, have you look at this? Yeah, no, because people expect it. They know it. It's not so much of a shock anymore. This is what drip feeding has been doing. I mean,
We've,
Twitter,
yeah, yeah.
yesterday on Twitter, somebody posted a video which is actually two years old of a wide shot of the White House with children being escorted out of it. So they're talking about the
Okay.
sexual assault that was going on underneath. They found various body parts, including children, underneath the White House. And now there's a post on X, as it's called now, the new one, and it hasn't been taken down. That was taken down 2 years ago. I recognized the footage and I checked it with a couple of brainy people that have a better memory than me say, yeah, that was 2 years ago where they saw a lot of children being escorted out. And at the moment, DC is having a barricade put up around it, and it's manned by the National Guard. The military are manning a whole area of DC where there's a wall put up. Why are they doing that? Why is the White House all sort of, Biden's never in there. He's always in Delaware.
Has it caused much of an uproar, this information, or is it, have people
No,
quite desensitized to
they're
everything?
desensitized because it's like a free bar at a wedding. The first 10 minutes, you're like, oh man, free bar. Come on, let's have one. Then when you realize it's always there, it's like, well, I'm not so much in a hurry. I'm not going to rush over there now. It's going to be there all night. It's the same with this sort of information. People know they're just waiting. They're waiting to see what's going to happen, and they're actually waiting for leadership. In my opinion, I think the first thing is going to pop is this whole border situation that Texas has gone against the federal government,
Right.
because that's really an important thing to do. And don't mess with Texas, because now they've been supported by majority of the U.S. other governors and of these states have said, yes, you have a moral obligation. It's in the Constitution to protect your borders from foreign and domestic threats. And Biden's administration is just opening them all up, saying, come on in. So that's going to be the next bit of inflammatory worldwide. Everybody's going to be watching incident, because he's going to have to do something. The presidency can't just say, well, I'm sorry, guys, if you feel that way, okay, crack on. It's like an arm wrestling competition. Who's going to win? But
How
go
are
on.
you feeling about the Gaza Palestine and Israel conflict at the moment? Because
Well, it's an interesting one, that, because I don't know how Israel are ever going to recover from this devastating public opinion of them, because the only people that believe Israel are doing the correct thing are brainwashed Israelis. And there's ways about doing things. Now, again, every time I mention this, I want to emphasize again that I'm not anti-Jewish. I've no problem with Jewish people. I've been around a lot of them, make me laugh. I find them quite friendly. They're entertaining. I don't have a problem with them. What I do have a problem with is this fanatical Zionist. It's like Islam, you know. Whenever I go to Islamic countries, they're lovely, kind, friendly, warm, sitting down, drinking tea, cracking stories. They've got a great sense of humor. But then the Western media has always demonized them. They're the evil terrorists are planning something in the basement. I mean, with any fundamental um, band that gets together, there's even in Central America in the 80s, there was a lot of them all getting together, kidnapping people, we're listening, like the IRA in Ireland's another good one. But how are they going to recover? Because it's quite clear their agenda. Their agenda is they are destroying building by building the entire thing of Palestine. And here's the other thing, that they always maintained that they were not a dictatorship to the Palestinian people. But I don't know if you're aware of this, but when you were born in Palestine, you have to register this child and it gets an Israeli identity number.
wow.
Yeah. So if I'm born in the UK, do I have to register myself in France? No, it's a different country. Palestine is Palestine, Israel is Israel. But anybody born inside Palestine has an official Israeli identity number. And the death notices that they've been putting out and showing how many people have been dying there, they all come with a name and a date of birth and their Israeli identity number. So the facts can be verified how many people they're killing. And it's cutting off the water, the power, no food. You're not allowed to land any humanitarian aid there. They cut off all the ports. It's quite clearly a genocide act against these people. And everybody's going, oh, no, it's not like that. These people attacked them. Nobody believes the story about what happened on that day when they just walked across the border and flying. small little parachute things with a motor on the back. Come on, man. The Israeli border, a cockroach couldn't get close to that without being detected, but yet hundreds and thousands of soldiers flooded across the border, heavily armed, and then planned an assault. Netanyahu, I think you know what? I think Netanyahu is the real guy is controlling the Biden presidency.
Absolutely disgusting. I cannot stand Netanyahu.
Hey,
He
he's a
looks
horrible man. Like today we're going to go to Gaza and maybe kill 5,000 children, and then we'll break and have some hummus and make some videos and have good fun and laugh about it, The only chance that Israel have got of repairing this horrific worldwide image is for them to rise up and overthrow the dictators and show that they have got a peaceful, intentional note for humanitarian. Granted, I've never been out to Israel. I've never been to Palestine. And I know a guy that I follow called Tommy Robinson's been out there. And he says, well, this Hamas, they took over, the people voted them in. Well, they voted them in once because they were tricked into voting them in. And then they've never relinquished power back to the people. And again, what does it boil down to? It boils down to a fanatical regime that will weaponize whatever religion they believe in, change things to suit their own agenda, and then amplify it and get the job done by using people that they can manipulate easily and can afford to lose. Same in the Ukraine. It's the whole agenda.
It's just, I think it's just the same rhetoric. Or every single year we see something that's, to do with Hamas and Israel. And the mainstream media have made it such a crucial argument for this conflict to always be about Hamas. And I just don't understand why the pro-Israel media never, ever, ever, ever highlight the fact that Palestinians are, as we all know, a very subjugated, occupied group of people. And, Israel has broken every single international law ever. And actually, under international law, Palestine actually has the legal right to form an armed resistance.
Yeah, to defend themselves, yeah.
Yeah, because they are an illegally occupied entity. And like you said, as if Israel has they know what every single dust particle that moves within there. And
you couldn't
to
get
say
a
that the
spider
Iron Dome
across that border.
it's really sad, and it's such a complicated conflict, and it's so historical. It dates back to decades. So for people to just have an opinion after they see one news on the mainstream news and form a completely form an opinion about it, is they need to do the homework and really look at the history of it, because it is very complicated.
The point is, again, breeding hatred for an entire nation is not the answer either. I was sitting behind a table of Israelis. I can identify the language Israeli very easily. And they were sitting behind me. It's just a family. It was in Spain. I don't know what they're doing here, but, I left them alone. But I'm sure this would be like being Russian at the start of the Ukrainian conflict. Russians were coming under attack all over. A Russian plated car was being vandalized, or Russian businesses, because mainstream media is destroying their name. But who owns the mainstream media, Tiana? It's all Israel. It's all Zionist money. Look to the list of the US Senate for all of the people that have Israeli passports as well as their own American ones. That's clearly an indication of how many people are taking, what's the name of it? A shekel is the money. Yeah. They're taking shekels from Israel. Here's a passport. If you ever get in problems, no extradition, get your ass to Israel. Why are all these American politicians second passport holders of Israel? Were you born there? Do you have a family there? Were you educated there? No, this is a gift. This is like, don't worry, we'll take care of our own. Just keep pushing the Zionist agenda. Here's passport, things get out of hand. You'll come to Israel, no problem. It's so obvious. It's so obvious. And then track the money. How many of them are taking contributions for the campaigns? How many are supporting agendas that are pushed by the Zionist regime from Israel? Netanyahu, like I say, people don't realize what a powerful man this guy is and how far his slimy tentacles can reach to control things.
Do you know that he's actually been criminally charged in Israel for bribery, fraud, and breach of trust. And he was actually invited to one of the White House ceremonies, I think. And I've read that Netanyahu is so close to the Kushner family that he once actually slept in Jared Kushner's bed when he was visiting them in New Jersey. I remember talking about this in one of my interviews, but
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. But what else have you got on Trump that you've uncovered that you're questioning? So we've seen all the list of the people that have betrayed him. We've seen, you've identified that there are certain people that are very close to his inner circle, within whispering distance of his ear, that have clear connections with the Zionist campaign.
Yeah. And I think one of the theories is, obviously we also know about this, and I don't know if I'm inclined to believe it, but it does make a bit of sense to me. We know that Trump was rescued, right, during two of his most devastating bankruptcies. And
Yeah.
if you do a little bit of research, I think you can see that he was rescued from these bankruptcies by the Rothschild bankers. And it seems like, obviously, as a result, he's beholden to them. And the Rothschilds are the satanic globalist genocidal elite. And, you know, it must be very hard for Trump to maneuver without some sort of accountability to them. And the Rothschilds created the state of Israel. We know this as well, obviously, 70 years ago with the Balfour Declaration, which very few people actually know about. And you know what's quite interesting is how Trump used to say so proudly that during his tenure, they've never had any wars. But now suddenly he's favoring this war against Gaza, and he's placing himself quite publicly actually on Israel's side. And you know, Jim calls Jared Kushner his Satanist son-in-law, who's obviously also an Orthodox Jew. And this Abraham Accord that they created was in recognition, well, it was for the recognition by Arab states of Israel as like a legitimate nation. So it literally told these Muslim brothers of Palestine that we should all now accept Israel. And the worst of it was that it blatantly and outrageously ignored the entire Gaza Palestine state and making this accord. It really, honestly, David, it made this Abraham Accord made the entire Muslim world hate Trump so much.
Yeah.
And you know, and forget about Palestine, forget about the fact that the Balfour Declaration was actually expired in 2023. And for those who don't know, the Balfour Declaration is literally the Zionist establishment of a Jewish state in Palestine. And they use all this biblical justification to ethnically cleanse all the people of Palestine. And Trump is actually in favor in all of that. So this to me is very outrageous, and it's just completely disrespectful of Palestine, and it ignores their oppression. And Trump said when Palestine was not considered, he would rectify the situation or something. Actually, I don't think he said anything. He was very happy to go forward with Jared Kushner's plan. So David, I think you will understand why half of the world of the non-Western side, at least, are absolutely outraged. And it doesn't make sense also, if he's truly trying to free humanity, which I know is one of Trump's main objectives, I can't stress this enough. Trump has been the no-war president, and yet he's supporting the Israeli war. That clearly screams out that Trump is under the influence of the Rothschilds, don't you think?
Would not surprise me. Would not surprise me. Personally, I haven't heard him say anything like that. But let's go back to COVID. He was a supporter of the vaccines. He still is. He still talks about. We know they're poison. So there are some questions about his particular following and his recommendations, which I believe. And then you've got fanaticals saying, "Oh yeah, but that was code for you. You know, this one's okay. This is really just hydroxy. This is really just saline." You know, I don't believe it either. I think long ago did I say, I'm not waiting for Trump to come and save me. I'm going to take my situation in my own hands. And I get it. But here's the good thing about what's going on for the Arab world, because let's look at the oil producing states of the Middle East. You've got Saudi Arabia, you've got a lot of the other Middle Eastern countries, you've got Africa. They're all getting rid of their petrodollar now.
Right.
And they're moving into BRICS. They're saying, listen, we're not going to do any more deals in US dollars. And I'm not sure if the audience grasp the gravity and the this is a volcano. This is a volcano that is exploded, and it's going to cover the US in an ash because they won't have all of the revenue for this. And I'll give you another great example. Mexico now, I watched a video from the Canadian guy, Chris, you know, the guy with the big teeth is always like really in your face.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So he's in Playa del Carmen now. I've watched a lot of his stuff. He's always in trouble. He's in Playa del Carmen now, and he put a video out a couple of days ago, and it said nobody wants to take US dollars. Now, when you go to Mexico, you'd buy some pesos, but most of the time it was dollars. Because you can work out how much that's $20. Okay, I know I'm not getting ripped off. How many pesos is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I don't know if I'm getting ripped off. But now he's saying, no, dollars, no, peso, amigo. Págame en pesos. So this is showing that people are moving away from the US dollar, and the petrodollar, once they've cancelled all of these deals, it's going to be devastating for the American economy because no one's doing these deals anymore. These have already been signed. It's already happening. It can't reverse. And there's an interesting advert on US TV where there's a woman in a supermarket and the guy says, oh, that's very expensive. She says, that's very expensive. He says, yeah, it's because the Fed have to be Basel III compliant and it's going to put all your prices up. But Basel III compliance, he says, listen, pal, you're not allowed to print a load of paper and then pay people with it because you haven't got the gold backed up in a separate account to verify that it actually has legal tender. I promise to pay the legal bearer on demand the same amount in silver or gold. So the American Fed is now releasing these adverts trying to scare the public into saying, we don't want Basel III compliancy. It's a scramble at the end of the day to get on the last flight out of Saigon. Remember that when we were evacuating Vietnam, there's a few helicopters, there's people holding on, like Afghanistan when they pulled out there, poor guys hanging onto the aircraft wheels. This is what it's like now for all these business people, because any minute JP Morgan is not going to be able to comply with these, and they have an extension, but I'm expecting some shocking news coming from the financial side. So for the Middle Eastern countries to be anti-American, I get it, because for the last 40, 50 years, they've been playing these FBI, CIA infiltration and political agitation games. What happened in Libya? What happened in Syria? What happened in Iraq? What happened in Afghanistan? All these people, and the only reason Saudi Arabia has been kept out of it is because they're very powerful. They signed a deal with the Bushes back in the 70s and Nixon, and they were making money on the oil. But now they're trying to demonize Iran. The Ayatollah is like, here's the evil man in the world. Let's get the Ayatollah. Allah Akbar.
You're so good at impersonations. I didn't know you were this good.
The Iranian, well, you know what? I've met hundreds of Iranians, and I've never met once a bad one. They're all very softly spoken, and would you like to come in and have some tea, and here are some sweet things? And I find them really nice people. You know, all this demonizing of heavy eyebrows and loading AK-47s. You know, all the Iranians that I've ever met, I've never been to Iran, but every Iranian's outside there, I've really, you know, my dentist, he's Iranian. Actually, two of my dentists are Iranian. Every time I see him, we sit down and when are you going to come see me? I only see you on the street. You never call me. We go somewhere and have a beer or coffee.
Oh,
they're lovely people. So anyway, this is like,
you know, David, I actually have so much to tell you, so we better get to it, honestly.
Yeah.
Way more. And I don't think we have enough time even, but another guy that I really wanted to tell you about was Dustin Nemos, I think his name is. He's another citizens journalist, and he's a researcher who became a prominent truth movement podcaster, I think, in the last year or so. And he himself was, you know, he was a self-proclaimed atheist. And recently I noticed in some of his interviews that he's had a complete turnaround and has become a very devout Christian, which is very interesting knowing him. But he's just done so much extensive studying of the Bible and just real political history of the USA. He's got this website called Saparium, I think, and it's full of documented and research, really, really meticulously researched evidence of Trump not being the man that we think he is. And, you know, like I mentioned before, when I talked about Trump's cabinet and just his admin team in general, he seems to always be surrounded by the swamp. And his ties to Israel and just, you know, Zionism in general can be found if you just dig even a little bit. But, you know, he was talking about how this example that he made, like, Trump no one in the office has ever been as good to Israel as Trump has. And Nemos was talking about this quite broadly. And he says that the Zionist organization in America has said he is their best friend in the White House, the best friend that they've ever had. And if you go on his website, I think Saparium, like I said, he shows how apparently every single aspect of Trump's campaign funding was Jewish. And if you follow, like we always use that hashtag, right? If you just follow the money. So if you do follow the money, you find that Trump's mega donor was someone called Sheldon Adelson or Adelson, I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Sheldon Adelson, who is actually a Jewish billionaire. And most of his cabinet and the people he endorses they all have a Zionist background. And you know, Dustin Nemos is actually, even a few other researchers that I've been watching say that Trump himself is a Jew. And I'm not endorsing again this information. I'm just saying, putting it out.
He says he comes from Scotland, is where he
Exactly. And if you dig into Trump's genealogy, you just find that his mother and just his lineage completely dates back to, well, the dates and the names don't really line up, you know, if you really do the research. And I don't want to spend too much time talking and going through this with you, but it does seem like Trump is a closet Jew. And all the while, he only highlights his Scottish heritage, like you said, with a last name like MacLeod, when in fact, actually, his original name was Drumpf, which doesn't in and of itself mean anything, but it comes from the Bavarian German background. And it's so interesting because there's a lot of pictures that I want to show you. I think there's 3 or 4 pictures, but
yeah, come. I'm just
so,
gonna grab my pen so I can take some notes there.
okay. So I don't know how to pronounce this word, David. Is it Chabad or Chabad? Chabad, the members of the Chabad.
I think it's
Because
probably both right. Chabad, I would say CH like cha.
okay. So, you know, so some of the pictures that we find of Trump in the White House are with these Chabad members. And, you know, according to Nemos, Trump's family is Chabad. They're part of the Chabad, who are a Russian Jewish mafia cult, actually, that they hate Jesus and they promote genocide. And hold on, let me just show you the first picture. Share.
Closet Jew, I quite like that. Guys.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
You know, they found all those Jews tunneling under the synagogue in New York, but they all came out wearing the massive hats. How can you wear that massive hat if you're a tunneler?
I can't, hold on 1 second, David. I'm trying to figure out how to do this. Oh, okay. So let's check if this works. It's not really working.
You got to go to share. I'm going to hit pause. Hit pause while you do that.
Okay, paused it. So I go on share screen, and then why isn't it coming up already? It should be one of the desktop. I have it here, right
You got to
here.
click on it and then put shared screen.
It keeps saying, I wish I could show you what I was looking at, but
What's it saying? Are you getting like a blue box saying
it's just they're showing me the screens, but all of them just have an error picture on it. So I don't know which
because your software is not updated.
Uh-oh. Okay, maybe it's desktop 1. Let's try it. Let me just try it. Okay.
Why don't you WhatsApp it to me and then I'll put it up? Let's put it on pause again.
It just hit.
You did it. Kabad.
Okay, I've got to hit record again. I don't know how to
No,
do
no, no,
that.
no. You can. Mine's recording, so yours should be.
I actually stopped the recording. So
Go on,
anyway,
hit the button.
okay, can you see it?
Yeah, perfectly.
Hold on. Pause it again, David. 1 second. I'm not being able to. Okay, there we go. There we go. So you can see this, right?
Yeah.
So look at that symbol. Trump's family is Chabad. Chabad is a Russian Jewish mafia cult that hates Jews and promotes genocide. It's exactly what I was talking about. There's a few other pictures I want to show you, but let me just give you an insight into what I'm talking about first, and then I'll bring it up again. Okay, hold on.
I'm just going to say, who's verified that that's what that is, though? Because all you're doing is showing us a meme with some writing on it. Just being devil's advocate.
I don't know. I'm just putting it out there. I just want people to look into it themselves, what this symbol means. I've just seen these pictures floating around, and it seems quite dodgy to me. But yeah, I'd love to know what people think. But I'm just putting it out there.
Yeah.
And then also, I just wanted to talk about the second picture. I don't know. You can obviously doctor images all the time. I'm not saying any of this is actually legitimate. I just really do trust this guy that has been talking about all of this. And, we've seen a few pictures, I think, of him paying his respects at the Wailing Wall, like all the other previous presidents. You've seen those, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they are basically, in the end, at the most fundamental level, all on the same team. That's what it seems like. And they all know who the real power is, and they all go there to pay homage to that power. And Dustin Nemos, he just says that power is Satan. And then, of course, we have Ivanka Trump and that husband of hers. Ivanka Trump is also, obviously, we know, she's a member of the World Economic Forum of young global leaders like Rishi Sunak. And her husband, Jared Kushner, is also a member of the Talmudist, supremacist Luciferian death cult, which is Chabad. And Kushner was a member, actually, of the Chabad house at Harvard. And his rabbi said Israel was his family, his life, his people. And Kushner's family has been donating alongside Trump to this Chabad house over like a long period of time. And his father was actually sentenced to prison for illegal campaigning donations. I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember,
Trump's
like, Trump
father.
gave, no, I think it was yeah, like, and Trump was given a free pardon by him because of it. So, Kushner's family are a criminal mafia family, and I don't know, I think they have their tendrils all over Trump, honestly. All the members of the Chabad cult worship the Talmud, right? And Nemos calls it Babylon's unholy anti-Bible, basically. And in the book, there's apparently so many passages about Jesus Christ who they call Yeshua,
Yeah.
but that Jesus boils in, I don't know, I forgot. I have this bit written down because I really wanted to say it the way he said it. Basically, he said, let me just bring it up. So, this they call it Yeshua, right? And they
Yeah.
said that this is what Dustin Nemo said. He said that Jesus boils in excrement in hell. Doesn't sound like a very holy book. So these people in the Chabad are just the highest level of the occult pyramid. There's a passage in there that I really wanted to bring out and I wanted to read to you. So I think it's this one. Oh, okay. So this is basically just an interesting part of the Jesuit oath. And I've written it down. It says, they will spare neither sex, age, or condition, and that they will hang, waste, boil, flay, strangle, and bury alive these infamous heretics, rip up the stomachs and wombs and their women, and crush their infants' heads against a wall. So also, like, they talk about how anyone who doesn't agree with them basically is like, you're going to face the highest level of punishment. And
Was
it's
that,
just,
did you use the word heretic there? Was that the word?
yeah,
Heretic.
heretic, right. And I think it's a rather charming oath taken by those in, the Jesuit Jewish order. So that's
Got to
interesting.
be pretty already screwed up to think that's kind of normal, though, wouldn't you? Hang on, you want me to what now? Take a baby and smash his head against the wall. I mean, there's some pretty disturbing stuff in the Quran as well when they talk about infidels and the way that they talk about Christians. They're telling us the same thing in the Quran, that we're just not even humans to destroy us. All these religious books are so extreme.
At this point, like, if you haven't broken out of the programming of religion, like, have you
Yeah.
really woken up to anything? I think that's the most ancient programming you should be questioning at first when you go down this journey. But also, he's talking in this oath, they were just talking about us, mankind. And like you said, it's probably, deep rooted in every religion because they are at war with all humans. They don't mean humans with HUMANS. It's like all hues, as in all the colors of man, you know? So it's very, very interesting.
I would say there's probably a lot of truth in what you're talking about, because obviously you've demonstrated there's some clear question marks about him. I would certainly question Trump's business past, who he's had to use and who he's bailed them out. The bankruptcies is an interesting case because we know it happened. So where is he now? Where do his loyalties stand? One thing that flashed in my head when we were just talking about, if he was being advertised or discussed as the most helpful president to Israel, is he helping Israeli people, or is he helping the Zionists?
Hmm.
Because again, that's all clouded in mystery. Because just because you're in Israel and you're moving the embassy and you're at the Wailing Wall, I don't think he spent much time at the Wailing Wall. What I saw, did he even have the hat on? He just stuffed something in the wall and came back, didn't he? Was he
Yeah,
doing the whole bashing his head on it thing?
I don't remember there being a hat.
I don't think he put the hat on, and I don't think he was there very long. I think he just walked up and sort of said, oh, "What's the big deal?" And then he stuffed a piece of paper in one of the cracks, and then came back. But yeah, if he's helping Israel, because that's the whole clever thing they've done. The Zionists have infiltrated and disguised themselves inside a religion, and now weaponized it. If you mention the word Holocaust, it's like everybody has shame and guilt about it. It had nothing to do with me, the Holocaust. So none of my ancestors were involved in that. Probably none of yours. So why should I feel shame about it?
David, there's also another picture of Trump like praying alongside a menorah, which is obviously the Jewish symbol, like the candles of Hanukkah.
Yeah.
Have you seen that picture?
No.
Let me pull it up really quickly.
I've always said politicians, Tiana, left wing, right wing, it's two birds. It's the same bird. Yeah, there he is. Why is it encased in glass?
It's just all so weird.
Yeah.
All of it is so strange. I don't know what this is. I think I was going to show you this as well.
Of the actors doing their job. Time will tell all of this. You see, one of the things that makes me smile is like, you can't hold back the tide. The waves have already started coming back up the beach. And this is how.
We're already on the positive ascending
Yeah.
timeline. This has all happened, and apparently we've won this war, and it's just playing out on the world stage as it is. I do believe in universal entropy. Like there's only, a particular stage of devolution we can actually end up in until we start to evolve again. So I think this is just like they talk about in Hinduism a lot, the cycles, the yuga cycles, and we really are in the end cycle of, which is called the Kali Yuga, I think, which is basically like a detox period for Earth. And so everything's just coming out. And we're going through a heavy, heavy detox where everything's being revealed, all the deceptions of the world. And as bad as it looks, it's actually for the good. And we
absolutely. I can feel that as well. Every day there's a little bit more, and more people are pushing back and waking up.
Yeah.
Every day they're trying to make us scared, saying they're going to bring out some new super virus. There's World War III is coming. Texas is going to be drawn into a civil war in the USA. But ultimately, I think, because look, if you had an Israeli family and you had a Palestinian family, do you really think an Israeli family sitting around having dinner saying, straight after dinner, I'm going to go and launch a rocket over there for these people? And, the Palestinians are thinking the same, baby, please put children in wardrobe because I'm going to start making explosives over here. The Israeli people don't want this conflict. And certainly the Palestinians, all they want is a normal life for their children. I've got one of those Palestinian desert scarves that somebody gave me. They bought it back from Jordan for me. And I use it all the time. Every time I go on a trip, it's on my bag. And I've had a lot of military guys come up to me because my hair is short, my body frame looks like military, and I always carry a military rucksack. Sometimes they give me a little salute saying, no, I'm not in military. Why are you doing that? But I went into a pizzeria / kebab shop in Ireland, and the guy was going, Palestinian, I'm Palestinian, you Palestine, because I'm wearing it. So, the ones that get out are lucky because they're not allowed to have a passport. They have to more or less it's 1,000 to 1 that they can escape the country. The Israelis are not letting any humanitarian aid in. There's no docking facilities in the whole port. You can't bring ships in. The Israeli military and navy turned away, and there was I think close to 1,000 vessels went there with humanitarian. They wouldn't let them give it to them. It's so clear what the cards are. And I think they've played their poker cards way too soon. They should have done it.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody knows, but am I going to go out and start trying to beat up and kill Israelis that are outside of Israel? No. But a lot of them are so fanatical about it because they've been exposed to such propaganda their entire lives. You know, you don't understand what it's like for Israelis. Yeah, what, children throws a stone at him, and then one of your soldiers is shooting that kid in the groin to destroy any chance of him fertilizing and being a father. That's justification. You've got all this, you've got all the gear and no idea.
No, I think that's such a good quote. I
Isn't
think
it?
you have to be highly, highly demented to be, logically trying. I mean, it's all mental gymnastics, isn't it? You really have to do a lot of high-level gymnastics to even see any sort of logic in what Israel is doing. Before we end this, David, I want to send you a video. I don't know if you can attach it to this,
Yeah, yeah.
I can send it to you on WhatsApp, but
How long
I
is the
want you,
video?
I think it's about, oh, it's not very long. It's just 43 seconds.
No, but let's
But
put it in the middle. Just again, bring up your WhatsApp on your computer,
I don't
and
have it on I'm using a new computer, so I don't have anything on.
clearly
This
send it
is
to me.
why
I'll
I've been
put it
having
in
so
here.
many problems. But I'll send it to you. See if you can attach it. If
I
not,
can. I
you
can
can just
attach
put the
it.
link on the bottom of the in your description box or
Yeah,
something.
send it
But
to me.
basically, I just wanted to mention that, the Jewish don't even use the word Yahweh out of respect for God's name, right? They say that you shouldn't pronounce it. But if you think about it, God obviously never said that you can't use his name, as you just said, don't use it in vain. But I really want to show you this video because I don't know if it's real. I have no idea. I just want to give it to you. But it's in the video, it just shows that Trump is accepting a crown from the Israeli Heritage Foundation, where he seems to be reading this prayer, and it's to Satan. And basically, a code name for Satan they use is Hashem. And Dustin Nemo, he talks about this, that Hashem is actually just another word for Yahweh. But like I said, the Jewish don't use the word Yahweh out of respect for God's name. And it's just, he just said not to use his name in vain, right?
Yeah.
But did you know that Hashem is another word, I think, for another name for Asmodeus? And if you just Google Asmodeus, it just comes up as the king of demons in Jewish theology. Like Asmodeus is basically the king of demons. Let me just Google it. Hold on, to make sure I'm not, yeah, the demon Asmodeus, as he's known very well in Jewish demonology and other religious sources, which is interesting. And that's the name he uses. And, the video shows that, when Trump accepts the crown, he's literally thanking Asmodeus. So that was interesting. I'll send
I'll have
that
a
to
look
you.
at it again. It's like you say, a rabbit hole, because would I be surprised to find out? No, all of this, because politicians are politicians. I mean, Trump's just playing his role in all of this, but ultimately it's up to us to decide what happens. It's up to us to not look for these politicians to solve our problems. We need to solve it ourselves. So
Mm.
if he's just a player in the game, that he's going to wake people up to realize they have their own power to change their own destiny and get out of this
If
matrix.
we do realize that Trump has been deceiving us, it gives us even more power, to realize, like, it gives us even more conviction to realize that, it truly is about us. This whole war is about us and bringing power back to ourselves, and it's got nothing to do with the world stage and what's happening in it. And I think it just cements that value even further. If the truth is that Trump has been deceiving us, that is. But there's just a lot of signs now that I've been looking at it. I did look at it a lot through rose-colored glasses, but I've also always said, my commitment isn't to prove that Trump is a good guy. My commitment is to the truth. And if the truth changes, I will change my stance with it. And so it's just interesting to keep an open mind. And I think that's what we all just need to do. And like I said, just keep it in the back of your mind and bear the information in mind. You don't have to believe anything. Belief is the enemy of knowing, after all. So
And the
just,
other thing is, America's only one country. It's like we don't have to follow what happens in America.
yeah,
Everyone's saying, well, whatever happens. And it has been like that. Whatever happens in the States filters down. Like,
yeah.
the UK is a classic example of that. I've seen how we've gone from not much American influence, but now a tremendous amount, with the fast food restaurants and the products. And listen, when they're using Wembley Stadium, which has been used for, I don't know how many hundred years, since 18 something, for football finals, and then they're converting it into American football. And now they have American football leagues in England. Like,
Mm.
what's going on?
Very
hot
strange.
dogs and hamburgers and Coca-Cola. A
But
lot of countries.
it is important for us to know what's happening in America, especially if you're living in the UK and just in Europe in general, because whatever happens in the highest echelons of society and the corridors of the White House in America does trickle down like 5 years later into
Yeah.
UK politics.
And they always said that, America's the police force of the world. But in actual fact, that's what the propaganda we've been getting through. Afghanistan never reached out and said, listen, we're running low on hot dogs and Coca-Cola. Please bring. They wanted to be left alone. They didn't
Yeah,
want to bring them. Habibi, Saudi Arabia. What are the chances of Saudi Arabia invading England?
Habibi.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Habibi. And then the US have got like 600 bases around the world. 600. Russia have got 9. They might have 11 now, but it's not even in the double digits, more or less. But America have got 600. And, Turkey, Guam, Southeast Asia. They've been playing this card of where are the good guys, but they're
Yeah.
absolutely not. All the footage and all the evidence is coming out. They've manipulated governments and started doing it a long time ago. And what they've done in the Middle East to destabilize the economies there. I mean, Libya was a classic example. Yes, Gaddafi was a nutcase, but he was a nutcase that people were scared of. And he kept law and order. You had some variations and offshoots of, the Shiites. But in fact, he looked after his people very well. He gave them donate 50 grand. You had extra water if you wanted to go and get education. $50,000 he gave you when you got married. And he was free healthcare. If you wanted to study a particular subject that wasn't available in the universities in Libya, he would pay for you to go anywhere in the world and study it there as long as you came back. He masterminded the most aggressive and largest project to bring water to the desert. It was a very ostentatious, very demanding project, but he did it. He got water to the desert. And then they destabilized the economy with using, because they wanted the gold. 166 tons of gold went missing after the Libyan conflict in the spring of 2011. Where did it go? Was it taken by Harry Potter? No, the Americans, the French, and the British took it. That's who took it.
We always have so many questions, don't we? It's just question after question.
Keep an open mind. Remember, Trump looks like he's doing a good job, but he could come from a background that's questionable. There are some question marks around his previous business associates. So don't expect him to come and save you. You still need to be focused on raising your vibration and understanding what's going on around you so you can take your own destiny into your own hands. And I think that's the best way to leave it. You've had some great points there, Tiana.
Wait, David, 1 second, 2 minutes. I just want to share one more picture. When you look at the Space Force logo, as in the unofficial Space Force logo that appeared on, I think, the hat on Trump's merchandise website at some point. If you turn the logo upside down, it does very much look like the Baphomet. And I don't like getting into these sort of conspiracies, but it is quite interesting. Can you see?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I think you got something there. Everyone's terrified of this Baphomet, aren't they?
I mean, it is terrifying. Have you had a look at him?
Between you and me, I've been in battle with him. I was called in a few times to do something with him. He doesn't scare me. And there's more.
Another very this is the last thing I'm going to say, but another very interesting thing is that Trump's Operation Warp Speed. If you remove the 2 R's, I forgot why Dustin was talked about this. It sounds silly when I talk about it now, but the reasoning behind it was very interesting. But just if you remove the 2 R's, it turns out to spell war on the seed, right? War on seed, which is practically what's happening. Like they're trying to genetically manipulate everyone's seed, like the seed of man.
The other thing is, who is really the Antichrist? Because he's supposed to reveal himself very soon. That's another possibility. The Space Force one is really, I see exactly that. You can't confuse that.
Do you think it sounds quite silly when people talk about Trump being the Antichrist? Because we've heard it all along,
I've never heard anybody say that, but I'm just saying, who is the Antichrist? He's about to reveal himself. If you follow the biblical predictions, the book of Revelation, we are in, what's it called now? We are in that section of the end of days. And basically, somebody reveals himself to be Jesus, and then Israel realize that they've been deceived, and then there's 7 years of tribulation. That's where
Yeah,
we're at. We're going into
yeah.
tribulation.
In
I'm not.
Islam, David, the signs of the Antichrist, I think I don't, can you tell me if they're similar? Because um in Islam it just says that the signs to recognize him are that he'll be an angel of light, he'll be quite charismatic leader, and people will flock to him.
Mhm.
Um, he'll reveal his true character when he has the world in his hands. And I don't know, there's a few other things, but he's going to be the man who rises up to unite the world. So I don't know if it's the same, but
The
that is what.
devil, the devil is a great deceiver,
Mm,
great deceiver.
we
So
know it.
let's wait and see. But there's a lot of food for thought in what we talked about. We'll have to do this again soon. When are you going to
Absolutely.
be back in Europe?
I should be back. So basically, I'm waiting for a surgery that I have to have on my leg. So I'll have to be here for a month afterwards and then hopefully be back. But I think it's better that I'm here because you and Charlie and everyone loves to do their interviews in the morning. And so it's better because it's like, I think I'm 6 hours or 5 hours ahead of you.
I know most of my stuff I do late afternoon, but I slotted
Oh,
you in
yeah.
because we're a special case.
Oh, thank you,
And
David. It's so
had I known that there was something wrong with your leg, I would have had a bit of a go myself. I've got some tools in the back of the car. I could just come and have a go.
No, the NHS have had all their fun with me. They've really done such a bad job with my leg, which is why I'm having to have corrective surgery in the first place. But
Only fools go to hospital. Remember that. I never, I never go. I just look at what it is. And I dated a couple of doctors, and he used to drive them mad. He said, they'd be sitting there taking pills, everything. I said, just have a hot whiskey with a load of honey and lemon. All these old recipes that your grandma taught you, they work.
that's so funny.
Well,
But
Tia,
anyway, David, it's been lovely talking to you. And hopefully, yeah, let's do this soon again.
do it soon again. Let's see how many trolls we get from this interview. But I'm putting
Do
it
you
out. Keep
do
it
you
open.
usually have your comments on, or are they, we're not
Oh,
gonna get.
always on, always on. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
really? That's good.
yeah.
That's good. Okay. All right.
I look
Lovely
forward
to.
to talking to you soon. Thank you very much. And send me the video and I'll add it on the end right here. Okay.
Absolutely. All right. Lots of love.
Bye bye.
Bye.